All right, Harbin, we are 13 days, or as some might say, we are Terry Fair days away from kickoff of the Tennessee 2023 football season.
Skylar McBee days.
True, there you go. I
Yeah.
was I was thinking more football, but that would work.
Granger County. Had to throw him
Great.
in there.
I went. I was at the tip of Granger County today. He played at Clinchview National.
Just the tip.
Just I don't know. I don't think we were just touching Granger County, so Um, wasn't really touching it or in it, but I rolled through Granger County the other day as we came back from Kentucky. So me and Big Montana went up there on a mission trip to spread the good word of the Lord and the Vols to some youngsters up there.
Good.
Some
Somebody
were
is
some
out there.
so they had these blue notebook folders to hand out and orange, and Big Montana put them out and said, "Choose wisely." I walked away because I didn't want to get struck by lightning. So, what we're going to do on this week's show is just myself and Harb. Big Montana went down to Cobb County, Georgia today to watch the Braves lose. I believe I was playing golf at the time, so I don't know this for a fact, but I believe they walked in the eventual go ahead winning run for San Francisco. But I don't think a ball was put into play from what I've heard. I haven't seen this. It may be totally incorrect, but that was the rumors floating around from that came from Kevin Griff, noted Braves fan and enthusiast. So I was with him this afternoon. He told me that. So I take it that happened. So prayers up to Big Montana as he went to Cobb County to watch the Braves lose. And Day Vol has a new puppy, and apparently it's chaos in his house tonight. So thoughts and prayers to Day Day and Jessica and Dane as they navigate through the world of a new puppy. So I hope he survives the night. We'll see. But we're going to do a preview show, just Harb and myself. We'll go through opponent by opponent of the Tennessee football schedule this year. We probably won't talk much about Austin Peay because it's Austin Peay. Probably won't talk much about Vanderbilt because they're Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt and Austin Peay, there's not much difference in football. So, yeah, they're terrible. Have you seen their stadium, Harb? Vanderbilt Stadium?
Yes. Nashville. That's all I got to say. It's Nashville. Um, I do find it quite hilarious though.
That soccer stadium in Nashville is nicer than Dudley Field.
Hmm.
It's pathetic.
It is sad, but it's funny because it's Vanderbilt. But the fact that it looks like that less than 2 weeks before the season starts, because their
Yeah,
first game's at home, is it not?
I believe so. And that's the thing I don't understand is why they waited so long into the summer to start this project. And basically, what they're doing is they've wiped out in one end zone, it was open air, and in the other end zone, it was filled in. It was a horseshoe, basically. And they basically wiped out both end zones. And in the end zone that was originally filled in, they're redoing that. They're going to build it back up, do like club seating, luxury seating, all this stuff. But I don't understand why you wait this long. I mean, it probably wasn't going to be open this season anyways, but why wait? Why not start this in January or something? Why are you starting in, I believe it was April or May when they started this project? So it's I don't know, but who cares? They can't fill up the stadium anyways in its old configuration. So what does it matter now? It probably will make it look fuller at this point, except when they're playing Georgia or Tennessee or Alabama, somebody like that. That's the only time the stadium's even near capacity. Is when those teams come to town. And seriously though, that soccer stadium in Nashville is way, of course, it's newer, but that soccer stadium in Nashville is way nicer than Dudley Field. But yeah, Vandy, total joke of a football program. As Day Vol says, it's a poverty program. and I can't disagree with him.
No, absolutely not.
So I had a little scare last night, Harbin.
Hmm.
So sitting
Tell
on
me
my
more.
yeah, I was actually seriously like scared. I didn't know what in the world was going on. I'd played golf yesterday afternoon, came home, took a nap. It was my cousin Zach's birthday, Zach Slagle, and uh, went with them to Amigos last night and had a couple chocolate milks, and then came home and had some more chocolate milk. Now sitting on the back porch, it's nice outside. It's not 80 degrees at night and completely humid. So was sitting on the back porch listening to some music. And I was actually texting Big Montana back and forth because we were looking at tailgating stuff, tables, tents, all that stuff. And I was looking at my phone, and all of a sudden I hear like heavy breathing, and I see something out of my left eye moving, and it's black. And there's like four of them. And I look up and I look over, and it's 4 police officers walking up my hill in my backyard. And this is, again, almost midnight, and guns in hand. And one of them is a female, and she falls going up my bank because the grass is wet. And I literally, like, my body functions like stopped. Like, I couldn't talk, I couldn't do nothing. I was like, what the heck's going on here? And I look up and I said, can I help you? I don't know why I said that, but I said, can I help you? And one of the male officers puts a flashlight up on me. He's literally like 20 feet away from me. And he says, please return to your house immediately. And I was like, okay. And he said, thanks. And they walked around. So I go in my living room. I went and got my gun, sat in my living room, opened the blinds, and they're like wandering around in my driveway. And then they go up the road. And I'm like, is there something, like something's going on? Like 20 minutes before all this, I thought I heard fireworks go off, but I'm starting to think it was some sort of automatic rifle going off in my neighborhood. Well, about 30 minutes after this, 7 more uniformed officers walk up the road, guns in hand. And I stayed there till about 1:30, 1:45 in my living room. No TV on, no lights on, nothing. Had the police scanner on trying to see what was going on, but I never saw them come back out. I don't know where they went. And now I'm starting to wonder, like, was I hallucinating? Am I imagining this? Like, what the heck's going on? I text a police officer friend of mine. I think he listens to the show. He's not even responded to my text message. So I don't know, Harbin. Am I hallucinating here, or like what's going on?
Well, we could have some trouble in Strawberry Plains, or you may have gotten a hold of some fermented chocolate milk.
I don't know, man. I seriously, like, when I saw those 4 officers, and I didn't know they were officers when I first saw them, because I sit on my back porch every now and then. I just sit back there and just, I don't want to watch TV. I was like, what the heck is 4 people walking in my backyard for? And then I saw they were police officers. And as they got closer to me, because there's a lot in my backyard, and I don't know, it just freaked me out, man, because I was like, God, somebody's coming to attack me. Like somebody's coming to like rob me or do something. And I was like, I couldn't figure out why they were walking in my yard. The road was literally like 30 feet to their right, and they're walking up a grass embankment in my yard. They probably had no idea I was sitting there because it was dark. So I was kind of worried, like, should I say something? Because their guns were out. I was like, hey, I'll just sit here and let them go by me, and then I'll go in. But I said, can I help you? I don't know why I said that, but yeah, little freak out moment last night.
Odd,
But I don't know what happened. I'm trying to do some investigating to find out. So if you're listening to this show and you know of anything that happened in the Stonehaven subdivision last night that required 11 uniformed officers to walk up the road from the entrance of the subdivision, I'd like to know. Please.
4-way in, no way out, baby.
Yeah. For somebody it was. All right. Season preview. Vols went 11-2 last year. I picked Tennessee to go 9-3 last year. What did you pick, Tennessee? You weren't on here last year when we did
on
this.
The preview show.
That's right. So this is your first year preview picking. Bowling, Big Montana picked the Vols to go 10-2 last year. And I think Day picked us to go 9-3 or 8-4. I can't remember. He did successfully pick South Carolina to beat us last year. I don't know if I want to give him kudos for that or not, but let's start with Virginia. Tennessee's taking on Virginia next 2 Saturdays from now. We're 13 days away. And Virginia's not very good. I'll read you some. What I'm going to do is read you some cliff notes of the teams really quick, and then we'll talk about why we're picking, what the outcome will be. But last year, Virginia was 3-7. They returned us 9 starters and have major question marks on offense. Monmouth transfer Tony Muskett is expected to start at quarterback.
Love that name.
Yeah.
That's an awesome quarterback
Muskett.
name.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Says the offense will definitely struggle this year. Outlook may be better on defense. 6 of the team's 9 returning starters come back on the defensive side of the ball, including all ACC candidates. Chico Bennett. Yo,
Another
Chico.
great name.
Aaron Fuamawu and Antonio Clary. So, long story short, not to get too deep into Virginia, they're not very good. They're picked to finish last in the ACC. I think there's 14 teams in that conference. So they'll travel to Nashville to historic Nissan Stadium to take on the Volunteers to open the season. Who you got, Harbin?
Vols. One small wrinkle that may make this game interesting got brought to my attention this past week. This is the first game that the University of Virginia will be playing since 3 of their players passed away last year. So, when stuff like that happens, you never know. They could come out fired up. Obviously, I'm sure we will do something to pay respect before the game. They'll have a little extra motivation. That being said, we might need to pay a little bit more attention than what we think, but I'd be shocked if we don't win by 3 scores or more. So,
yeah,
line will probably be, what's line 28?
The last I saw was 28.
Yeah, if we don't win by probably 20, 21, then I'd be fairly surprised.
I agree. I think Tennessee either comes close to covering or does cover this game. I don't think it'll be close. It might be a little close from the get-go, or at the get-go, but I think eventually Tennessee motors away from Virginia. Athlon has, and I'm using Athlon to look through these teams on our schedule, but Athlon has them ranked 93 preseason. So not good. They've apparently got a pretty tough schedule early on against Tennessee and Maryland. And then they've got James Madison, who is a noted 1AA or FCS program. So it's going to be a tough season for Virginia, possibly. They got a lot of work to do, but I think Tennessee rolls in this first game. It's a good game for Tennessee to get a lot of key pieces on track, notably offensive line, quarterback, getting new receivers accustomed, which I don't think is going to be that big of a deal in this system. And just it hopefully gives a chance for a lot of playing time too, for some other pieces that may have to contribute, later on in the season. But I think Tennessee rolls in this one, so we both got the Vols 1-0, and then we return home, Harbin, to, and we're not really going to talk about this team. I didn't even look them up, but Austin Peay, the home opener, Saturday, September 9th. 5:00 p.m. I think it's a great kickoff time, by the way. You can tailgate most of the day. Game will be over by 8:30, 9 o'clock. You can hit the road, stop at Taco Bell on your way home, or go to an establishment afterwards and party away the rest of the night. But great kickoff time. I wish there was more 5 p.m. kickoffs. But I think you and I would probably both have Tennessee winning this game, I assume.
Yeah, for sure. If Tennessee doesn't start 2-0, Henley Street Bridge might burn.
There could be some issues if we start 1-1 or 0-2, I would assume. which there were some issues a few years ago when we did that same thing with losses against Georgia Georgia State and BYU. So, but they rebounded that year. But that leads us into a big matchup, Harb. 2-0, the Vols head down to Gainesville, a place Tennessee's not won since 2003, on the shoulders of Casey Clausen and Jabari Davis there in the swamp. A 7 p.m. kickoff at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Florida, much like Virginia, has a lot of question marks returning to their team, starting a new quarterback. Basically, it's a total rebuild in Gainesville for Billy Napier right now. They went 6-7 last year. They're also replacing a standout offensive lineman, Osiris Torrance, and the defense last year ranked bottom of the SEC. They just weren't very good in any phase of the game last year. Looks like they're starting Wisconsin transfer quarterback Graham Mertz. Just looking through their team, there's a lot of question marks. I saw on SEC Network earlier this week, I can't remember the analyst that was on there, but he had Florida go 4-8. I don't know. I hadn't really looked at their schedule overall, but I just think early on, it's a big game for Tennessee. Big Montana said last week that it sets the tone for the season. I think Tennessee's a better football team right now. I think they're a better program than Florida right now. But we got to get that monkey off of our back when we go down to Gainesville and win in a place we've not won in 20 years. And that's going down there every other year to play. So Athlon's got Florida's national rank preseason at 49. I thought that was maybe a little high, but maybe not because they're the conference they play in. But what do you think, Harb? Does Tennessee go down to the swamp and get a win?
I think there's a key component to this that I haven't heard really anybody talk about. And it's Florida's first game of the year at Utah. Depending on how they play in that game, can swing this game a ton. That's obviously not going to affect us, but it's going to affect them. If Florida goes over there, because I believe Utah is supposed to be pretty damn good again this year, are they not? I don't know exactly.
I think so. I haven't looked them up, but I've heard they're top 25.
Right. If Florida goes out there and hangs in there or beats them straight up, they're gonna have some confidence against us, which they for the most part already do outside of last year. But like you said, we haven't beat them there in 20 years. They've got that confidence against us at home. Now, if Utah beats them by 30 in the first game, I think it might affect their psyche a little bit. But we can't really worry about that.
Well, I will say they beat Utah at home last year, and Utah was 7th last year. And I remember after that game, there was a lot of Heisman talk for Anthony Richardson. There was a lot of buzz around Florida, and then they came here. And we didn't blow them out or anything, but we had them handled. We kind of let them sneak back in it there at the end, and had to hold off a late rally. But I can see that it's a good momentum builder if they do go out to Utah and play well and somehow win that game. But I don't know that it necessarily means anything. Like you said, it doesn't mean anything to us, but could to them.
Right. But I don't think this is a surefire W as much as other people do. I've got to see it to believe it. With that being said, I do think we get it done. I think we start 3-0. I think we beat them. And while I'm throwing my 2 cents in there, I do think that Utah kind of handles them. I don't think they blow them out, but I think they win by double digits. What do you think, Nease? Do we go down to Ben Hill Griffin and win for the first time in 2 decades?
By the way, Utah is ranked 14th in the AP poll to start the season. So top 15. I said top 25. They're top 15. I want to preface all the rest of these picks. I should have said this earlier. A lot of our play this year, I think I may have said this, but I want to make sure I reiterate it. I can't. A lot of this will depend on quarterback play and offensive line play. I think that's the two big areas that we've got to watch. I've not seen enough of Joe Milton to be 100% sure, like I was with. I saw enough of Hendon Hooker the year before to know that guy was going to be solid, if not great, and he ended up being great last year. I've not seen enough out of Joe Milton to think that. So I still have a lot of question marks surrounding Joe Milton, even though he played pretty well in mop-up duty last year. He played pretty well against Clemson, I think we could say, especially in the second half. But there's just such a small sample size since he's been here. So does Joe Milton play? I'm not saying he has to play at a Hendon Hooker level, but he can't turn the football over. He's got to be efficient, convert third downs, get the football to the guys that need to get it. And then the offensive line needs to play pretty well so we can run the football, because that's going to be a strength of this team this year is the dual-headed monster of Jalen Wright and Jabari Small, plus Joe Milton can run, and then there's more running backs behind those two guys. So I think those are the two key areas. I'm not worried about wide receiver. I think Tennessee's defense is probably a little more improved from last year, but it doesn't have to be a steel curtain defense for Tennessee to be successful. We saw that last year. Nobody plays defense anymore in college football anyway. So I think those two areas, and that's my picks are based on Joe Milton being efficient and the offensive line playing up to a high standard. So I think Tennessee goes to Florida and wins. Is it going to be a blowout? I don't think so. It's a road game in the SEC. It's at night. Again, it's not an easy place to play. I've been there twice. It's very loud. If Tennessee can come out and set the tone early and dictate their will to Florida, I think, especially if they don't play well at Utah and they start the season off on a bad foot, that program could be in trouble this year. They could have a rough season. And I think Tennessee goes in there and wins by 7 to 10 points, maybe 14, maybe pulling away at the end. But I think Tennessee goes down there and gets the W for the first time in 20 years, and they start 3-0.
I agree. And we kind of touched on it, but the biggest key to that game is getting in a groove early, in my opinion, because we're going to have a new look offensive line. And if we go down there and let's say Florida scores first, or maybe we get the ball first, and we get a couple false starts or holdings to start the game and kind of shoot ourselves in the foot, and we're looking at 2nd and 20, 3rd and 20, I think we get in a little bit of trouble. It'll be hard to recover, but as long as we get solid O-line playing, we're running the ball against them, I'm confident that we win by 10 to 14, like you said. Like, let's not overthink this. Like, they're not as good as we are. I mean, we've got the mental block, but we're a better football team.
This is a game Tennessee needs to go down and take care of, and by the fourth quarter, it needs to be like LSU was last year. The stadium needs to be empty. That would send a clear message to the rest of the conference that, like we talked about last week, a couple weeks ago, that last year wasn't just a flash in the pan, that, Tennessee's here to play again, and we're going to be here for the long haul, hopefully. But I don't know. You can't, like you said, you can't go down there and get off to a bad start, turning the football over, lots of penalties. You don't do that stuff and you win. Just go down there and take care of business. You're 3-0. Next up, now this next game, we're back home. This next game's interesting game. UT San Antonio. I was looking on the AP poll today. The Roadrunners, great name, by the way. I was looking on the AP poll this afternoon, and I've totally lost where I was at here. I don't see them. Oh, yes, here they are. I'm sorry. 26, 27, 28, 29th. So as of right now, they're number 29 if the poll kept going. They're right behind UCLA and right in front of Arkansas. This is not a matchup. I'm guessing the powers that be, or whenever this schedule was made, or whenever this contract was written several years ago, that this probably wasn't envisioned that San Antonio would be ranked 29th in the preseason poll and coming off a really good season last year, and their quarterback's returning, who was pretty good. This is a good football team, Harb.
Yes, they are.
I mean, I think from just looking at the preview from Athlon today, it's between them and Tulane to win the AAC this year. And I didn't realize this. They're 30-10 the last 3 years. So, I mean, this is a good, solid mid-major football program. It kind of reminds me of back in 2003 when we played Fresno State here at home. We also played Marshall that year at home here. Both programs were in pretty good football teams, mid-major programs at that point. But their quarterback, UTSA's quarterback, is back. They returned 9 starters on offense. Frank Harris is their quarterback. He's back for his 5th season. He threw for 4,063 yards and 32 touchdowns last year. Their offensive coordinator left to go to Oregon as offensive coordinator, but they don't expect any fall off as far as that goes. I thought it was interesting. Their national rank here on Athlon is 32, well above Florida. They've got non-conference games. Just a glance at their schedule before we pick this game. They're at Houston, they're at Tennessee, and they've got a home date versus Army at the Alamo Dome, which is their home stadium. And then in AAC play, they go to Temple, Florida Atlantic, and North Texas. And they also play Tulane later in the season. So this game's sold out, by the way. I saw the other day Tennessee announced that this game is sold out. This is going to be a tough non-conference football game. I think Tennessee wins this game. I think it ends up probably pulling away from San Antonio. They've probably never played in an atmosphere like they're going to walk into that day. Tennessee's going to be hopefully 3-0, sellout crowd. I don't know what time of day that game will be. Hopefully a night game, but it's going to be hard for the Roadrunners to communicate offensively. And can they keep up with Tennessee on the defensive side? That's a question mark to be seen. I think they score points against Tennessee because their offense is good. I just think it'll be tough on them, but what do you think?
See, I look at this game and it has the resemblance of a trap game. So let's say we do go down to Florida and we win. Okay. After that, the next checkpoint on the schedule of avenging things is South Carolina the week after. UTSA is directly between Florida and right before South Carolina. We could get caught on a little bit of a hangover against Florida with a combination of looking ahead to South Carolina. Do I think that'll happen? No, I don't.
But it could.
But like you said, UTSA, solid football program. They know how to win, and they know how to win on the road. They haven't played in Neyland Stadium. I mean, when they play on the road, they're normally looking at less than half of the people that we'll have in there. But this is not going to be a cupcake game. Like, worst case scenario, we get upended looking ahead. Best case scenario, it's kind of a shootout, but we probably put 50 on them, like 50-28, 50-24 type deal. I don't think either one of those things happen though. I think they put up a fight. I think first half's pretty contested. It's pretty electric. I think we pull away and win by about 2 touchdowns or maybe 17, but I think the game is going to be closer than the score indicates. I just don't want to get caught in a hangover multiplied by looking ahead.
This
but
game,
Tennessee should start 4-0.
It reminds me too a little bit of the Bowling Green game I remember a lot of people in 2015, a lot of people talking about that because Bowling Green was a good football team. They had been a good football team leading into that, and they scored 30 points on us that day. It was 59-30. We were never, if I remember correctly, we were always up like 2 scores or 17 points, and just never could really like pull away from those guys because they kept scoring. But I think you might see a game similar to that. I don't know that we win by 29 points, but yeah, I haven't seen any lines for this game. I think expected lines are like 7 to 10 points in this one. So I mean, I think Tennessee wins this game and probably wins it by multiple scores. But I think it's a dogfight for a majority of the game, or at least 3/4 of the game. But they can't overlook this team. They just can't do that. And we got to remember these are 18 to 22-year-old kids. There's a lot of distractions, and it can happen. We saw it happen last year against South Carolina. You and I were there in person, live, and we witnessed it in a bad way. And there was other stuff going on besides just overlooking the game. But I think Tennessee wins this game. I don't think it's a bloodbath or anything like that, but I hope and I think Josh Heupel won't and his staff won't let it happen, but it could. But I don't think it does. I think Tennessee wins and goes to 4-0. So we both have Tennessee 4-0, right?
Correct.
Man, 4-0. So that brings us to our friends from Columbia, South Carolina. There's two Columbias in the SEC. This is the one to the east of us. South Carolina coming to town. I think Josh Heupel may have this game on loop in the facility. Tennessee laid I don't even know if you want to call it laying an egg last year in this game at Williams-Brice Stadium. It makes me think. I remember when I was very young, Tennessee went to South Carolina, lost in 92 or 93. I can't remember which year. It's Johnny Majors last season. It was the downfall of Johnny Majors, basically. And they lost to a bad South Carolina team. Steve Tannehill, quarterback. And then the next year they came to Knoxville and we just absolutely destroyed them. Now, South Carolina was bad back then. South Carolina's not bad right now. They're 8 to 10 win football team probably. So Spencer Rattler's back. They're returning a lot of key pieces. I don't know what to make of South Carolina. I think they're a good football team. They're solid. I just don't know that they're as good as Tennessee is right now. I don't know. What do you think about South Carolina? They're ranked on Athlon, by the way, at 31. So they're in reference, San Antonio is 32nd.
I'm gonna say this right now. No, hang on. Before I go crazy, let me look at South Carolina's games before they play us. So they start off with North Carolina at home. I would call that game a toss-up game. Then they have Furman, and then they play at Georgia. So you're looking at 2-1 or 1-2. And then they have Mississippi State at home the week before us. I think they're better than Mississippi State. I expect them to win that football game. So you're looking at best case 3-1, maybe 2-2. This is my guarantee of the year. And if I'm wrong, I invite every single one of y'all to blow me up, light me up, whatever you want to do. The spread is not going to be very high in this game. It will be less than 10. I would expect it to be around 6.5. Put your life savings, your Roth IRA, the money you've hidden underneath your mattress. Put your damn deed to your house, your car, whatever you need to do, your grandmother's ring that you're going to wear whenever you get married. Tennessee beats the hell out of South Carolina this year. I'm saying it right now, and I've said it for weeks or months at this point. Josh Heupel's got this game circled on his schedule. Now, granted, Shane Beamer's got this game scheduled too. There is nothing more that Shane Beamer wants than to beat Tennessee 2 years in a row. That's fact. But do we trust Josh Heupel or Shane Beamer more? My answer is Josh Heupel. I think if there's any chance whatsoever that we run it up on them, it happens. It'll be like Woody Hayes back in the day when he asked why he went for 2, and he said it's because I couldn't go for 3.
Yeah.
It's going to be that top. We have if South Carolina's 2-2 going into this game, we put the nail in the coffin on their season. It's going to be bad. And Neyland's going to be absolutely rocking for this game.
That's what I was about to say.
It's going to be bad.
Imagine our predictions come true and Tennessee's 4-0 heading into this game and South Carolina comes to town. It's going to be all talk all week is going to be about the game last year.
And then Kirk Street's going to be like, oh, South Carolina's going to go in there and do it again,
Well, that atmosphere, I'm afraid that atmosphere in Neyland Stadium is going to be, well, I'm not afraid. I know it's going to be absolutely electric. And I think we make Spencer Rattler's life a total, in the words of Vince McMahon, a total and complete living hell. And I think Tennessee wins this football game. I can see it in my mind right now. It's chaotic in there. It's loud. Spencer Rattler throws interceptions or they're turning the football over. And Tennessee just overwhelms them. It's just coming off of a win against San Antonio against a tough team. South Carolina may be downtrodden just a tad, and Tennessee wins, I think. I don't know. There's a game like this every year I just feel like is a lock, and I'm with you on this. I don't know that Tennessee beats them by 3 or 4 touchdowns, but I think Tennessee wins this football game.
The vibe of this game, in my opinion, is like the Kentucky game last year. Now,
yes.
I am saying we beat them 44-6. No. But I think a lot of people think that South Carolina have a chance to knock us off. Now, I think Josh Heupel is going to pretty much lay his manhood out on the table and say, no, the hell they ain't. Like, we're getting this done. We're going to the bye week, and we're getting ready for A&M.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Harb. I think Tennessee just takes care of business, does what it needs to do, probably a little more against South Carolina. So 5-0, Harbin. Is this real life? 5-0. We both having 5-0.
I mean, we went 5-0 last year, and then some. I mean, I know we went through over a decade of heartache, but we're a pretty damn good football team.
And we got a lot of momentum behind us. They're recruiting well. They're winning football games. They've gotten better and better in 2 years under Josh Heupel. And look, we may slip up. These predictions may not come true. We may slip up along the way against San Antonio, or we may go down to Florida and lay an egg. I don't know. We shouldn't. We absolutely should. We're going to be favored in all of these games. I don't think that's incorrect in me saying that. And we should win these games that we've picked already. And that includes the next one, Texas A&M. I think Tennessee. Now, this is as of tonight, August 20th, when we're recording this. Tennessee plays South Carolina on September 30th. Tennessee plays the next team we're going to talk about, Texas A&M, on October 14th. That's 2 months after, or a month and 5 weeks after the season starts. So a lot can change in 5 weeks. And I don't know, Texas A&M may be undefeated. I didn't look to see who they play leading into the game against us, but I don't know. A lot of people are picking A&M to be to rebound this year. They were awful last year. They went, I guess you could say disappointing is a good word to use, probably the most disappointing team in college football last year. And I'm trying to look at the AP poll. They are 23rd to start the season. Their first game's against New Mexico here in a couple weeks. So what's your thoughts on A&M coming to Neyland Stadium for the first time since 2020? I didn't get to go to that game, but I don't count that. I supposedly had COVID and I couldn't leave the house. I didn't feel like going anyways. The season was over. Pruitt stunk, and I was sick, and I gave the tickets to Big Montana, and he took Big Griffin. He went to the game and enjoyed it. Got to sit front row, but I didn't get to go to Texas A&M game in 2020. So I'm looking forward to the Aggies coming to Neyland Stadium. First time I'll see them in at Shields Watkins Field. And I'm assuming this is the first time they've been in this stadium. I don't know if I don't think they've ever played here before, but what do you think, Harb? Texas A&M coming to town, are they better this year, or do they flatline? Is there trouble in a College Station for Jimbo?
The easy answer is to say yes, they will be better than last year. That's the easy route to go. My professional opinion that carries very little weight. I have no idea. They could go 5-7. And I'll be like, yeah, okay. They could win 9 ball games, and I'll be like, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I have absolutely no idea what Texas A&M has in store this year. They've made some moves. They brought in old Bobby as OC, Mr. Petrino.
You think they gave him a motorcycle?
They could have. The only difference is I believe I put a side cart on this one. Put a side cart on it. So A&M, they start off in New Mexico at home, win, and then a weird game. They go to Miami.
That's a pretty big game early in the season.
It is. On paper, A&M's probably the better football team. I don't know where Miami's ranked. They're not ranked, but I don't know where the rankings you've been looking at's got them. I'd say they're somewhere around Florida, around the 40 number. If I had to guess,
I don't see them in the others receiving votes category of the AP poll. That includes South Alabama, James Madison, and Liberty. All received 1 vote.
Okay, Miami might be pretty bad. So we'll say A&M wins that game. I'm not confident in saying that, but for shits and giggles, we'll say they win that game. Then they have Louisiana Monroe at home and win that one. Then they have Auburn coming to town. That's an interesting game. We'll throw that in the toss-up category. And then they go to Arkansas. Arkansas is a solid football team. We'll also see about that. But the main thing that I want to talk about is October 7th. We have a bye week that week. Texas A&M hosts Alabama. Now, Alabama's got a few question marks themselves. That's a big game for them to have before going on the road to Neyland Stadium. You would think A&M's weird. You would think that they go into those games thinking they have a chance in both. Maybe Alabama goes down there and beats them by 28 and breaks their back, like Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. I don't know. This is the biggest question mark on Tennessee's schedule, in my opinion. On paper, we should win. I mean, we went undefeated at home. There are maybe 2 teams in the country that I don't feel confident against at home. Unfortunately, we play one of those. I don't know. I legitimately have no idea in this game. My gut says that Jimbo has it figured out and kind of turns it around a little bit. I don't think he's completely lost that program. I don't know. If you told me that we lost that game by a touchdown, or if we won by a touchdown, or won by 17, I'd believe all three of those. What do you think, Nease?
Well, I mean, again, we're looking at all this on paper. This is August 20th.
Right.
So a lot can happen.
As of mid-August, I
Yeah.
have zero idea on this game.
So I look at it this way: Texas A&M. Let's just put this in perspective. Last year, they started the season ranked, I think, fifth or sixth, and they imploded. They were not good offensively. They were not good defensively. I think they were in the hundreds rankings in both of those categories last year. Yes, 101st in the nation in scoring, 22.8 a game. They were 123rd in total defense last year. They did lose 5 games by 6 points or less. I remember one of those games was the Auburn game. It was at Auburn. Cadillac Williams was interim coach, and that place was, I remember getting Snapchats from Reagan that night about how wild Jordan-Hare Stadium was. A&M didn't have a chance. They were bad anyways, and they walked into a Lions den that night and didn't walk out. They have a lot of question marks. They have question marks at quarterback. They lost their best running back. Defensively, like I said, they were not good last year, so a lot of question marks. Can they improve on that side of the football? I guess logic says that they will, because they've got so much dang talent on that roster. They've recruited at a high level since Jimbo's been there. They did when Kevin Sumlin was there. So it stands to logic says that they will improve this year, but I don't know what that means. Does that mean they go 7-5? Does that mean they go 8-4? I don't know. They could go 10-0 or 12-0. I don't know. It's like you said, this is a huge, we just don't know what Texas A&M is going to be like. So I'm picking this game on what my gut is telling me is this team is probably going to be improved, but there's so many question marks surrounding the program that it might take them a year to get their footing back. Is Texas A&M wait a year for them to get their footing back? When you're paying a coach, what is it, $95 million over 10 years or something like that? Just some ungodly amount of money to go 5-7 and maybe go 7-5, 8-4. Is that good enough? I don't know, but A&M could be really good because Jimbo Fisher, I think, is a good football coach. He was a good offensive coordinator at LSU. He won at Florida State, obviously, won a national title, even though he had a really good quarterback that year. But he's left a lot to be desired at Texas A&M so far. And his body of work there tells me that Tennessee's better than them right now. And I think Tennessee wins this football game. Is it going to – I don't know what a line might look like in this game. I don't know. I just think Tennessee wins. If you had to ask me on August 20th, Tennessee wins this game. I may change my opinion by the time we get to October 14th. But you made a good point, Harb. Tennessee has a bye week. A lot of tough games for Tennessee leading into this bye week. San Antonio, South Carolina. They've played at Florida at this point, and they get a bye week to rest up. And A&M's playing Alabama the week before. And teams historically don't play well the week after playing Alabama, especially when they're playing a good opponent. So I say Tennessee wins this football game.
Yeah. If somebody put a gun to my head right now and said, who wins this game? I say Tennessee does.
If an officer's walking through your yard at midnight and points a gun at you and says, does Tennessee win this game? Do they?
I say yes.
Okay.
Main point being, this is the question mark for most of our games. If the O-line's playing good, which is at home, and this is what, our 6th game of the year, if our O-line's going to be worth a shit at all, they're going to be playing good in the 6th game, barring injuries. O-line holds up pretty good. I don't care if they bring in Bobby Petrino. I know he's a good offensive mind. Their offense is probably going to be a little bit better than it was last year, but I still don't think their offense is good enough to keep up with us if we're rolling.
At,
Because
okay.
I mean, realistically, A&M is going to have to come in here and score at least what 35
I would think at least 30.
at bare minimum. Um,
If Tennessee's playing well offensively, yes, they have to score
I
that
mean,
many.
we averaged what 42,
Yeah,
45 last year.
I think so. Yes.
I mean, based on odds, I'd say, I mean, I doubt our offense will be as good as it was last year, but it's still going to be really good. We'll probably average 38, 40 a game. If A&M comes in here and scores 35, it's probably not enough. So for that sole reason, I think Tennessee wins. And reluctantly, I say Tennessee is 6-0 to start the season.
Athlon has A&M ranked in their preseason as 20, but they say in their final analysis, expect the Aggies to improve on last season's victory total. But the question is by how much. Petrino's arrival as offensive coordinator creates optimism that A&M will break out offensively. They go on to talk about the offensive line and run defense has to improve, which we talked about. They finish up here by saying anything more than 8 wins may be asking too much. And that's what I was saying just a minute ago. I hadn't even read that yet. I mean, improvement is record wise 7-5, 8-4 for this team. I don't know if that's good enough for Aggie Nation down there in College Station, but I think there's several other teams on Tennessee's schedule that are probably better than A&M. As if you had to ask me right now, that could change by October 14th. They may be good coming in here. I don't know.
I'll leave it with this: the Bobby Petrino hire could be one of the best experiments in college football this year, or it could go down as one of the biggest duds of all time. Because odds are Petrino and Bobby Fisher are probably going to hate each other by the end of their tenure. I mean, they're both big heads. They're both successful coaches. Somebody's getting big for their britches. That's how.
Rumor was that he was going to let Petrino call plays, and that's almost, I think, been backtracked on now. He's not really committed one way or another. Will he let Bobby Petrino call plays? And that was a big beef that a lot of people had with Jimbo last year. Should he be calling plays as head coach? Should he turn that over to somebody else and let somebody else solely focus on that? I mean, look, there's a lot of coaches in the NFL that call plays. Well, not a lot. I mean, there's some that are heavily involved in the play calling, but you just don't see with everything going on in a game. I know Josh Heupel's heavily involved in the play calling. You just don't see it work a whole lot. There's rare cases that it does, and I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding him as a head coach. How he manages games because of that. So, Athlon's got them ranked. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Athlon's got them ranked 20th, but I think they've got a lot of question marks around them. So we both got Tennessee beating them. We both have Tennessee 6-0. Leading into a huge matchup, potentially. Third Saturday in October at Tuscaloosa, Crimson Tide. We all know what happened last year. We're not going to talk about that. Time to move on. Harbin, what's your thoughts? Alabama's got a lot of question marks. Starting a new quarterback. They weren't great defensively last year. They up to Alabama standards, they weren't. They kind of weren't up to Alabama standards offensively. They've been really good offensively the last 7-8 years. They used to just run the football, was efficient passing the football, and played good defense. And they've turned into more of a passing first, mix in a good solid run game, but they always played good defense. They did not play very good defense last year. What do you think about them?
So, all the logic in the world says that we're going to lose this game. In the Nick Saban era at Alabama, well, we'll say in the last 13 years, so 2010 and on, has any SEC opponent went back to back years beating Alabama?
I can't recall any, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't think so,
I
though.
don't either. I think the answer is no.
I mean, the only one you think would do it is LSU, and I don't think they have.
I don't think they did either. Um, with that being said, I've been I've said on I don't know how many shows we've done since we come back, 2 or 3.
This
I've
is
said
number
on just
three.
I think I've said on both of them that we split with Alabama and Georgia this year. And I truly believe that we go down to Bryant Denny and we win that football game. Now, obviously, a lot of things have to go our way, just like last year. But this is not the Alabama that we're used to from the last 5 to 10 years. They have a major question mark at quarterback. And, could they go out there and go 11-1, 12-0? Absolutely. I mean, I'm not taking that away from them. Their defense is going to be better than it was last year. But they are a shitty quarterback performance away from winning like 8 or 9 games. And if we beat them and somebody else does and LSU goes back to back on them, we could be looking at the end of an era. And now I know I'm saying a lot of ifs and maybes and what ifs and whatnot, but this is a very real possibility. We're gonna go down there and let's see here. Obviously, they play A&M the 2 weeks before. They open up with Texas, or no, I take it back. They open up with MTSU, but directly after that, they play Texas at home. And last year, Texas damn near beat them with what, second or third string quarterback out there.
Yeah.
It was a dogfight. With that being said, I think Alabama wins, and I think they win fairly handedly in that game. Then they play at South Florida, which is hilarious to me. Like, why
Yeah.
is Alabama playing at USF? Then they play Ole Miss. Ole Miss has some question marks. I think Alabama wins that game. Then they play at Mississippi State and at Texas A&M, and then Arkansas at home. I think they are undefeated. I think this is an undefeated matchup when we go down there. And their stadium's going to be bloodthirsty, considering we beat them last year, and they're not used to that recently. I don't know. I just think this team does not have the blinders on that teams in the past have. Like, we've went down there and we've came up very close but short a few times. 2009 comes to mind. Rocky Block, Mount Cody. 2015, we score with 4 minutes left to go up like 19-15 or whatever it was.
Yes.
Everybody in the world knew we left too much time on the clock. I don't know. I just have this feeling that Josh Heupel does not give a shit about Nick Saban. And I think he's one of the very few coaches in the country that feels that way. Obviously respects him, ain't saying that, but he's not scared of him. I think we go down there and win. I hate saying that because I know it could very easily come back and bite me in the ass, and we could very easily go down there and lose by 14. I don't know. I love it. I love the way it's feeling. Especially if they end up, I don't think they do, but especially if Milrose is starting quarterback, I'm not scared of that cat whatsoever. And if they start that kid they brought in from Notre Dame, forget about it. They've given up on their season already.
Don't forget they have Tennessee native Ty Simpson, who's a 5-star prospect on their roster.
I think that's who's going to end up being the starter. But don't be shocked if they start 1A and then switch to 1B for the South Florida game. I think we're going to see a rotation of sorts. Like MTSU, we're probably going to see all three of those quarterbacks. I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that we don't know almost exactly 2 months out from that game. But we're not scared of them. And I think on paper, the teams are pretty damn near close. I think it's a legitimate toss-up game. And if you're twisting my arm right now, I say we go down there and win the damn football game.
This is one of the tougher ones for me when I was looking through the schedule last night before the police showed up at my house. And Nick Saban, I was reading some comments that he made earlier in the season. He, just to paraphrase, he's basically said the quarterback position is the most important position of development on this team in the offseason and for their success moving forward. He's got options, but how are they going to turn out is the question. There's a lot of unknowns. We've seen this story before with Alabama. They have a good quarterback and they roll out and they bring somebody else in. But I think for the first time in several years, the question marks are bigger at that position with Alabama because, you went from a Jalen Hurts to Tua Tagovailoa, and then you went from Tua to Bryce Young, who we all knew he was the most highly sought after quarterback at his recruiting class. They don't have that in any of these cats they got on their roster right now. Now, Ty Simpson was pretty highly sought after. I know Tennessee kind of got on him late when Josh Heupel came in, but it was pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered that he was going to go to Alabama. But, he's a 5-star prospect, and he's got that pedigree that would lend itself to say he at some point eventually is going to be the man down there. But it's not coming out that way right now. They may come out and name him the starter. I don't know. But they've got a lot of question marks at that position. Like I mentioned earlier, they're defensively. They had a lot of talent defensively last year, but there was at times last year they were not good. There's a lot of question marks for the first time in a long time at Alabama. I don't normally doubt Nick Saban. I always have this philosophy when I'm picking games every week that I always take Alabama, even on point spread games that we're picking, not just straight up. But I think for the first time in a long time, there are a lot of question marks. But normally I guess my question is, will Saban put all that to bed and quiet and put the whispers, shut them up that his tenure may be on the decline? I'm not saying it's over, but on the decline where they're not the top 2, 3, or 4, one of the top 2, 3, or 4 programs in the nation. That's the questions about this football team in this game. We both have Tennessee 6-0, I think. You have Alabama. I hadn't looked at their schedule. You have them as undefeated coming into this game. Probably going to be a 3:30 or a night game. So a big time atmosphere there in Tuscaloosa. I plan on being there for that game, hopefully. But the curse is broken. But I don't know what to think about this game. I really don't. There's a lot can happen in 2 months. If you had to ask me right now, I say Alabama wins this game just on historical precedent. I'm looking at it as they're going to be fine at quarterback. They're going to run the football. They're going to play solid defense. I guess I have to see it to believe it, like Thomas. I have to touch it to see it. But I don't know. I just think Alabama wins this game. If you had to ask me right now, I think Alabama wins this football game. Could we go down there and win? Absolutely. We did it last year. You saw 2 years ago when we were down there, Josh Heupel in Tennessee hung around with it. I mean, it was a one-score game going into the fourth quarter. And I ended up blowing us out. I think depth wore down and some other issues popped up. But I mean, Tennessee was right there with those dogs or with those guys. So we can go down there and win. I'm not saying we can't. I just, if you had to ask me right now, I think it's a tough ask of Tennessee to go on the road and win against a program like Alabama. Tennessee's, even though we're 6-0, I think Tennessee's still a young program, still developing, still trying to rebuild its roster. I know we brought some talent in, but it's very young, and we're just a couple injuries away from maybe being a 7 or 8 win football team. So a lot of that'll play into it. But I think, if you have to ask me right now, I think Alabama wins this game.
One of the pros about being young is they don't know how to lose.
It's true. They don't know all the stuff
But
that
they also don't know what
we've
it
been
takes to
through.
go down to a place like Alabama and win a football game. I mean, these are all things you have to consider. But I think we get it done. I do.
I don't think it's a bad pick at
Like,
all.
like, I mean, obviously there's scenarios where we lose this game. I'm not saying that, but I think we go down there. I think we win. And I'm going to be there. And I'm going to have a cigar in my pocket. And I'm going to light that son bitch up in the stadium to get payback on them damn Bammers coming up and lighting one up and kneeling damn near every year I've went to that game. And that's just how I feel. Feel free to make
Always,
your opinion.
always take a cigar to the game with you. I took one with me for years, even though I knew we weren't going to win, but I always took one just in case. So always take a cigar with you if you go to this game. So you've got Tennessee now 7-0. I've got Tennessee 6-1. That leads us into our friends from the north, the Kentucky Wildcats. So we're going to go on the road to historic, as Gavin calls it, historic Kroger Field. Commonwealth Stadium is what I call it still.
They now have a shopping cart on their field.
Is it like the big Food City shopping cart that they drive around? It's got a motor on it.
Yes, it's literally the Kroger emblem with a buggy.
God almighty.
25-yard line. I don't think I have to say anything else about my prediction for this game.
I don't know what to say about that place anymore. I really don't. Did you see somebody posted it was obviously fake, but they're like the uniform matchup for this game, and it was
It's like
Kentucky in blue and white checkerboard and Tennessee, like the whole uniform in orange and white checkerboard. God, it's awful looking.
Kentucky finally took the checkerboards off their football field, though.
Yeah, I did see that. Thank God. Why they had that in there to begin with, I don't know. I guess it was a jab at us, but they took it out of their basketball uniforms last year, finally. What do you think about Kentucky, besides them having a shopping cart on their field?
All jokes aside, they're not going to be a bad football team. Legitimately. Let's see here. They're going to be 4-0. Hell, it could be 5-0. They start off with Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, and at Vanderbilt. That's 4 wins. And then they have Florida at home. And that Florida at home game is interesting because they kind of had the blinders on Florida, kind of like we did at one point. But if Florida's bad like we think they're going to be, and there's some question marks with Kentucky bringing in his name Devin Leary at quarterback. Is that his name?
Yeah, from North Carolina State.
Yeah, that kid's not bad. And they're bringing back their OC. That I believe went to the Bills at one point. Forgot his name. He's escaping.
Rams.
Rams.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
Liam. Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Right. So let's say they're 4-1, 5-0. and then they play at Georgia. We'll put that one down as an L. So they're 4-2 or 5-1. And they play Missouri at home. That's a 50-50 game. I think Missouri's going to be pretty good this year. So you're looking at Kentucky either being 5-2 or 6-1 with us coming to town. With us more than likely being around 6-1. That game's going to get a lot of attention. Kentucky will more than likely be ranked hosting us. It's not going to be a cakewalk. And after last year, playing at South Carolina, I take no road game in conference lightly. I know we make a ton of jokes about Kentucky, and it's fun as hell, but they're not going to be bad. Like, their defense is going to be pretty good, just like every year. They're probably going to be able to run the ball. It's just a matter on how Devin Leary plays. With that being said, though, I could never imagine being from Kentucky.
Can you imagine? I can't.
And the Vols are going to be 8-0.
So I was like, while you were talking, I was looking through last year. Will Levis stinks. He still stinks. He's there with the Titans. Just I don't know. I really don't know what they were doing drafting that guy, but I hope they prove me wrong. But I don't think he was as good as everybody let on he is. He won the underwear Olympics because he looked good. And he's got a rocket arm, but his decision making was bad. And he was also hampered last year. Their offensive line was bad, which is not typical of a Mark Stoops team. They always usually have a pretty decent running game, offensive line, and they play solid defense. They're not going to wow you in the passing game. That's just not how they're built. They lost their best running back from last year, Rodriguez. I believe he graduated. Yes, Chris Rodriguez. They added Vanderbilt transfer, Ray Davis. But they had to rebuild the offensive line. And they have their offensive coordinator back from a couple of years ago, Liam Cohen, who went to the Rams for 1 year. And like you mentioned, NC State quarterback Devin Leary comes in. They have talented receivers, according to Athlon, led by freshman All-Americans Barry Brown and Dane Key, combined for 1,147 yards last season. Defensively, it says here their remaining the biggest question marks remaining on defense is how quickly the transfer portal additions, apparently they hit that pretty well. Cornerback was a key position they recruited. Athlon has them ranked 27. So they're right around that same area as San Antonio, South Carolina. Texas A&M was 20 according to their rankings. So they're kind of in between that, between South Carolina, San Antonio, and they're between A&M.
They've also got some transfers coming in on the O-line. They have a guy that didn't really see the field much at Alabama coming in. And there's another one. I can't remember exactly where he came from. But I do know they got a guy from Bama coming in. They got one more guy, and they're both expected to start.
Look, Kentucky is one of those programs. They're like Alabama to me. I don't ever expect to lose to them. They've only beaten Tennessee, I believe, in my lifetime 3 or 4 times. I think it's 4. Yes, 4 times in my lifetime. I'm 39 years old. So I've rarely seen Kentucky beat Tennessee. And so when I go into these games, I expect to win this game. And I have no faith that Kentucky will ever beat Tennessee. That being said, I would assume that they're going to be an improved football team this year. I don't know. Maybe they won't be. They have a lot of question marks like several other teams on this schedule. But I think it'll be a tough game. It's probably going to be a night game in Lexington. They'll have the horn going for the coal mine up there. in the shopping cart on the field, and Kentucky fans will have that, and they'll probably be ranked, like you said. I looked at the AP poll to start the season; they're 33rd, and Athlon's got them at 27, so they're right in that 30 range. Let's split the difference, but a lot of question marks on how Devin Leary plays. A lot of question marks on the offensive line. I think they have more question marks than Tennessee, and I think Tennessee goes up there and wins that game and goes to 7-1. And you got Tennessee winning and going to 8-0.
I do.
Shaping up to be another big fall. If our predictions go as planned as of right now through the Kentucky game, Tennessee's going to be right in the mix for the SEC East and the playoffs again. As through 8 games, our predictions have Tennessee right in the mix of championship talk again.
Yep. And the 9th game, Lord willing, a 7:57 doesn't hit Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, should we even talk about UConn?
No, they are very improved. They made a bowl game last year.
Jim Moore is their head coach.
Let's give them a lot of credit because they went from the literal laughing stock of NCAA football 2 years ago to going 6-6, and I believe playing Marshall in their bowl game last year. I don't remember who won, but I mean, it should be a no contest. We should wipe the floor with them. I believe that's homecoming game, correct?
It is.
Yeah. Vols win big. My math, I've got Tennessee 9-0. Your math, you have
8-1.
8-1.
So moving on, we're back in SEC play, Harb. Tennessee's in my book, Tennessee's 8-1, in your book, Tennessee's 9-0, right? Is that where we're at? So we go up to Missouri, and I know you've said this could be a big test for Tennessee on the road in Columbia. Well, let's be honest, that the environment and the atmosphere there, I've been there. It's nothing to write home about. It's not great, but doesn't mean it can't be a tough place to play. This game 2 years ago I was actually in Louisiana when this game was played and watched it at 11 a.m. Central Time in my Aunt Sherry's house. And we absolutely just boat raced those guys. And that was kind of like when the light came on for me that Tennessee football under Josh Heupel, these guys might be something. And that was kind of like we just boat raced them is the only word to use. They never stood a chance. Obviously, that's a totally different team than 2 years ago. They've got a different coach. I don't know. Was he there then? I can't even remember if Dorkwitz was there. I think he was.
He's going into year 3.
Yeah, he was there in 2020.
Yeah.
So, I mean, same coach. They have made some strides last year. I thought they were better last year than they were in 21. But they've got a lot of question marks themselves. They were pretty good defensively last year. Tennessee made them not look that great, but they're always, to me, a 500 football team. They had a good run there in the early 2010s under Gary Pinkel. Went to an SEC championship game, won the East somehow. I don't know how, but I don't know. I just, again, this is like when you're looking at it on paper, Tennessee's a better football team. They're a better football program all around than Missouri. And I know you've said Missouri might be better than some people think. Athlon has them ranked 50 to start the year. So that's well below San Antonio, South Carolina, A&M, Kentucky. I just, there's a lot of, I guess I don't believe in Dorkwitz. I think he's a good offensive mind, and he's probably a good fit for Missouri. I can see him at some point. It may take him another couple years, but maybe getting to 8 or 9 wins and being that Kentucky type program where they're just right on the edge, but they're just never going to do enough to get over the edge. They're going to win 7, 8, 9 games every year. They're going to cause some teams some heartburn along the way, but I don't see them causing enough heartburn for Tennessee to lose the game going to Columbia. Will it be easy? Absolutely not. This is the SEC. Nothing's easy, except if you play Vandy. But I think Tennessee wins this game. What do you think? Uh-oh. He's pausing.
I think I think this is the most dangerous game on
More
the.
dangerous than South Carolina.
Yes, not even close.
Okay.
Um, this and the Florida game, which people are paying attention to the Florida game. They're taking that game serious. The reason I think this game is the most dangerous game on the schedule is because nobody gives a shit about it. Everybody's writing it off as a win. It's on the road. It's going to be cold. It's more than likely going to be at night. And it's the week before Georgia. And if my predictions are correct, we're going to be 9-0 or 8-1. And I hope I'm wrong. I think we get caught looking ahead. I really do. You saw it last year when Georgia went to town there. They gave Georgia everything them boys wanted. And Georgia had to buckle down. And I mean, obviously, talent prevailed at the end. But if it's a night game and if they win a couple of these toss-up games on their schedule, I mean, it's not. I mean, this place isn't Knoxville or Athens or Tuscaloosa. It's probably not even. It's probably the number 2 Columbia in the
Yeah,
SEC.
it is. I've been to both of them. It is by far.
I don't know. I just think there's something weird. I feel something really weird about this game. So, Missouri, they've got South Dakota win, MTSU win. They host Kansas State. Kansas State on paper is better than them, but I'm going to put that in the toss-up category. Then they have Memphis, and then they're at Vandy. So they could start 4-1, 5-0.
Wow, they're playing. By the way, they're playing Memphis State in the. It's now called the Dome at America Center. I still call it the Edward Jones Dome. They're in St. Louis, home of the former home of the
Yeah, that game
Rams.
is in St. Louis.
I didn't. I just now noticed that. But yeah, they've got their early season slate will tell us a lot. I mean, you say that about any team, but their early season slate will tell you a lot about them.
So I'm going to go through best case scenario Missouri season. They start off 5-0. They drop one to LSU 5-1. A game at Kentucky. Kentucky will be favored by 3.5. That's a toss-up game. Let's just assume that Missouri splits with Kentucky and South Carolina. Let's just say that for shits and giggles. So they're one loss going into the Georgia game. Boom. They've got 2 losses. We come to town. They're like, okay, like Georgia probably beats the hell out of them at home. Take a little bit of that aggression out on them the year before. We're overlooking them going into Georgia. I don't know. We saw it last year, which I know there was a lot of contributing factors that went into our stumble last year. But just the way that we play, unfortunately, one of the main cons of it is we're going to have a chance to beat somebody that we shouldn't. And there's going to be opportunities for a team to beat us that should not beat us. That's just the kind of football that we play. And that's my prediction. We split with Bama and Georgia, and we lose a game that we shouldn't, and it gets us to 10-2. That's what I'm looking at. And just looking at our schedule, the most dangerous away game is Missouri.
Let me ask you a question. Does they play Georgia before they play us? Literally the week before, November 4th.
They do. That changes my mind slightly about it.
Because I was going to ask, there is a Georgia effect similar to the way teams rebound after they play Alabama. It takes a physical toll on you. Teams normally don't play great after they play Georgia. That's why I was asking, does that go into any does that go into anything?
It does, obviously. But let's say they are, let's see here, we're their third to last game, so we're their 10th game. Let's just say they are, after 9 games, 6-3, and Georgia doesn't beat them by 24. Let's say they beat them by 17, 14. They may have a little bit of confidence that they hung in there a little bit, and that they've only got 3 losses, and that they can make some noise, and at the worst case, and get into a solid bowl game, because the 2 games after us, I would consider toss ups. They've got Florida at home. If Florida's season goes the way that most people think they are, Missouri will be favored in that game. And then they finish the season at Arkansas. That game's toss up. They're going to be fighting for. I think Missouri.
They have a lot of toss ups, to be honest. I mean, you look at their schedule. I've got them going.
Missouri has potential to go 9-3.
Oh, I missed the South Dakota game. I didn't even see that. 1-0. Man, MTSU's playing 2 SEC teams this year. What are they doing? 1-0. I think they beat South Dakota. They beat MTSU. They lose to Kansas State. They beat Memphis. So they're 3-1. I think they beat Vandy. They're 4-1. Then they lose to LSU. That Kentucky game, so they're 4-2. That Kentucky game, like you said, that's going to be a back and forth, probably down to the wire game. Do they win that game?
Probably 16-13.
Yeah, something like that, or 23-21, or something like that. And then they got South Carolina. That's back-to-back games they could easily lose. They could also easily win those games.
Right.
So they could, going into the Georgia game, they could be 4-3 or 6-1. That's a huge swing right there if you look at it. So they could be 6-1 heading into Georgia. They're probably not going to beat Georgia, so they'll be 6-2 heading into us, or they could be 4-4 heading into us. And looking at another,
it'd be 7-2
or 7-2. Sorry.
Yeah.
Either way, their season is going to be defined in a 3-week stretch, and I think they probably go 1-2 in that 3-game stretch. They lose, I don't know what combination of, but they lose 2 out of 3 to Kentucky, South Carolina, and LSU. And then they lose to Georgia. So they're kind of in a nosedive at that point. I don't want to say a nosedive. They're not trending in the right direction when they play us. I don't think Tennessee blows. I don't think Missouri blows, or Tennessee blows Missouri out. I'll say that. And if we go up there and play sloppy football, we're asking for trouble big time.
At the same time, though, if Missouri goes 1-3 in that stretch, Dorkwitz is coaching his ass off to stay off the hot seat.
Yeah, because if you look,
because they've had steady improvement ish. I mean, they haven't gotten worse with him being there.
Well, look at their record their last 4 years: 6-6, 5-5, 6-6, 6-6. They're a 500 football program right now.
They are. And there's a lot of people out there, which maybe I've taken a hit of the Kool-Aid. I don't know. There's some people out there that think that they're a legitimate 8-4 ball team with potential. I mean, obviously they could potentially go 7-5 or inversely 9-3. On paper, you look at Tennessee, Georgia, and LSU, you think those are the 3 losses if they're going to win 9 games. I'm just saying, like, none of us in our wildest dreams when we drove to your uncle's house in Spartanburg thought we were going to lose that game in Columbia. We were what, 26-point favorites?
Something like it was big. I can promise you, I was not worried in the least bit about that game. I thought it,
I wasn't either.
I mean, I just honestly wasn't, because South Carolina was not good until that game. I mean, they were okay at best, but
granted, I think that South Carolina team had more talent than this year's Missouri team.
Correct, especially at the quarterback position.
And maybe I think I'm just trying to jinx myself here, because when I look at it, we're going to treat the Florida game with some respect. We're going to treat A&M with respect, but that's at home. I'm trying to think of road games. Kentucky, I mean, I just don't see us losing to Kentucky. This Missouri game, I, th- I think we're going to be looking ahead to Georgia, especially if we have a goose egg in the loss column. And 99% of me thinks that if we're 9-0 going into Missouri, Josh Heupel will take care of business and get us to 10-0 going into the Georgia game. But at the same time, I mean, I've seen crazier shit happen less than a year ago. So, for the sake of the show, first loss of the season's in Como.
Hey, Day Vol picked Tennessee to lose at South Carolina last year, so
Yeah. I mean,
it
well,
can
he also
happen.
picked him to go 8-4.
True. That is
But
true.
I don't know. Unfortunately, I think Heupel's got that in a good way. He's got that Georgia game circled for obvious reasons. But the way we went down there and played last year, it was 1v1, whatever you want to call it. I think he's kind of like piss on Missouri, which I don't know. I mean, he may give him a little bit of more credit, or he might have that game circled because he used to coach there. He was the OC when Drew Lock was there. Maybe he wants to beat them every time he plays them. I don't know, but this is the most dangerous in regards to what the spread will be. I would assume that we'll be favored somewhere in the 10 to 14 range. We don't cover. We don't. This is a trap game if I've ever seen one. And official prediction for the Why White podcast: we drop one in Columbia, Missouri.
So we both now have the Vols at 9-1 with different paths to get there, but we both have Tennessee at 9-1 heading into game number 11, which regardless of how they got there, if Tennessee's 9-1, Georgia's probably going to be undefeated heading into this game. The Georgia Bulldogs coming to Neyland Stadium. I love when this game is now, by the way, in November. We always used to play Georgia back in the early 90s. It was one of the first SEC games of the year. One year, I think it was 95. It was the first SEC game of the year. It was like our second game of the year. We played East Carolina first game, and then the next game was, I believe, Georgia. Jeff Hall won it on a field goal last second. But this game is in November now. I think I don't know what the SEC schedule is going to look like going forward. So I can't say that it's going to be like this moving forward anymore because the divisions go away. But I love this game being in November. It's just a November type game to me. Everybody used to want Florida in November. I don't really care about Florida that much anymore. That game doesn't. It's still Florida and it's a rivalry game, but it doesn't. Life and death's not on the line like it used to be. Like when I was growing up, if you lost that game, you were done. You were not going to Atlanta unless something bad happened, and you were more than likely out of the national championship hunt. That's what I always. Chad Grubb, you know this, has been one of the biggest critics of the former era because they didn't win more titles. There's one reason for that. Steve Spurrier and the Florida Gators, they could not get by those guys. They handled business everywhere else for the most part. You could say they slipped.
Keep in mind, Chad Grubb criticizes former for only winning one in the 90s, yet he praises the Atlanta Braves of the 90s for
True.
only one. So,
True.
Chad, I hate to throw a stray bullet at you, but let's keep it consistent here.
But anyway, I got way off topic there
Yeah.
about this game. But yeah, I mean, it's I love this game being in November. November 18th. Georgia comes to town. I haven't looked at their schedule, but I've seen it, glancing at it. It's pretty weak.
Yeah, it's
I
awful.
don't.
This is
I don't.
going on their hardest game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Let's look up their schedule very quickly
It's bad.
because it's bad. It's they tee off with UT Martin, Tennessee Martin, the Skyhawks. Then they play Ball State, just another juggernaut. Then they host South Carolina. Then they've got UAB. Then they've got Auburn, who's probably not going to be very good. Then they've got Kentucky, who they should beat. Then they've got Vandy, who is Vandy. They're bad. Then they go to Jacksonville, the world's largest outdoor
Is this
cocktail
the last
party.
year it's in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with that game.
I think
Honestly, I
they're
mean,
gonna.
it's
I think
it's
they're gonna
I
do
think it's
home
gonna
and
go
home.
home and home, right, for a couple years while they redo the stadium down there. Then it'll be the world's largest indoor cocktail party because it's gonna have a roof on it. They got Missouri at Sanford Stadium. That's a win. They got Ole Miss. I think that's a win. And then they go to Knoxville. So, I mean, could they have a bump in the road or a slip up like a Missouri game last year? Obviously, it's the SEC. But, I mean, Ole Miss could be a challenge. I don't think they will be, but.
Auburn's always gonna play them hard. It's rivalry.
Right. It's the oldest rivalry in the Deep South. So,
But preseason AP top 25, they're in the SEC and they have two ranked opponents.
yeah.
And their out of conference schedule is as soft as baby shit.
I mean, you could look at Tennessee's schedule. We got besides Austin P. I mean, I don't want to say UConn is trash because I don't think they really are, but this is one of our harder out of conference
I tell
schedules
you
we've
one
had
thing,
in a while.
UConn is definitely better than UT Martin, Ball State, and UAB.
Yeah, I
Maybe not,
100%
maybe not
agree.
UAB, but it's close. And UConn is probably the second easiest game on our schedule.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. Well, Vandy maybe right there with them, but
Yeah, I mean,
they're. I think Vandy's probably better than UConn. I don't know.
play Vandy though.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
So, I mean, all that being said, is there are a few question marks. Their season this year, or they're going into this season, is very similar to Alabama in a way, where they're starting a new quarterback. But if you look at the quarterback situation, theirs is a little more stable than Alabama's. I think they already named a starter, Carson Beck, who, by the way, if you've seen the pictures, looks like Beavis from Beavis and Butthead.
Got them Pete Davidson eyes.
Yeah. But I mean, they're obviously more stable than Alabama at the quarterback position, we think. They're going to run the football. They're going to play really good defense. Athlon's got them ranked number 1 to start the season. Their final analysis is they're just as talented as they've been the past 2 seasons, if not more talented. That's what happens when you stack elite recruiting classes on top of each other year after year. They've got a very weak schedule, so they're going to be more than likely undefeated when they come to Knoxville. Look at it this way. This is going to be a big game for both teams. Georgia's going to come into this game undefeated, probably looking to prove. There's going to be a lot of talk as the season goes on. Georgia hadn't played anybody. Their schedule's lame. Are they for real? And their fans, as we know already, use that bullcrap of we're doubted on. Are we the most doubted champion, back-to-back champion ever? I don't know why they say that. No one's saying that. But that talk is going to come up as the season goes on because they're probably not going to have a much of a challenge from anybody on that schedule until they face us. It's going to be Neyland Stadium, 3:30. You can almost say that's a night game that time of year because it gets dark at 5 o'clock. So the second half of that game is going to be played in the dark. So pretty much a night game. It will be an electric atmosphere. We all remember what happened last year down there in Sanford Stadium. It was supposedly louder than a fighter jet in there. I was there. You were there. It was very loud, wasn't it? I think we can agree.
It was.
But I think their decibel counter was broken and was out of control on the video board. But I think
definitely fabricated.
I think Tennessee fans are going to be looking to repay the favor as far as crowd noise goes. But I think Georgia still a little bit ahead of Tennessee as far as roster depth, talent. Can Tennessee pull a game like they did against Alabama last year? Absolutely. Will they? I don't necessarily think we're ready for that yet. So I have Tennessee losing this game and falling to 9-2.
Here's the thing. Both of us have them 9-1 going into this game. And barring something crazy, Georgia will be undefeated, at the worst have one loss going into this game. Even if we lose in Como, this is still for the East.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, even if both teams have a loss, this is still for the East.
yeah, it's still for the East. So Neyland's going to be absolutely rocking. We obviously play better than we do. I think a lot better at home than we do on the road. And here's what I said. Here's what I was talking about when I said we split with Bama and Georgia. I think it's more likely that we beat Alabama. But let's say we go your path and we lose to Alabama. If we lose to Alabama, personally, I don't think we lose to Missouri. I don't think so. And if we go into that Georgia game and our only loss is at Alabama, and I think it'd have to be crazy if we lost by double digits to Alabama. Georgia's got a question mark at quarterback, which their question mark at quarterback is way more of a period or a semicolon than Alabama's is. But we play, I don't know, with the way that game went last year in Athens, that place is going to be absolutely insane. I think we'll definitely play better this year than we did down there. In my opinion, it'd be hard not to.
Yeah. We didn't play great. Let's just be honest. We had some moments, but
That was one of our worst games of the year.
I mean, you could just sit there and watch and see who the better football team was in that game, in that day.
And I hate to admit, but we kind of pissed down our leg too. A little bit.
Did. They did.
Yeah. I mean,
and they still, all that being said, they still had opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean
on paper, like, well, I mean, we only lost by 14. I mean, I'm not trying to do moral victories because 14, but it's not like we went down there and got beat 38-6. I don't know. This game's interesting. Do I think we win? No, I don't. Do I think this game is extremely interesting going into the fourth quarter? Absolutely. We're gonna have opportunities to win this game. Do I think that I think this is the most depth that we've had under Heupel. And with that being said, the most depth that we've had in 15 years, probably since 2007, 16 years. We're getting deeper. If we can cause a little havoc, get some pre-snap penalties early. The biggest thing is going to be if we can run the ball against Georgia. And I don't think we can yet. As much as it pains me to say that, I don't think we can run it against them effectively enough to open up most of the playbook that we want to against them. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be hard fought. But I don't see it happening.
I don't either.
And I would
hope it does, but I don't see it.
I'd love to be the Stephen A. to your Skip Bayless here. Say, wait just a damn minute. But I think we're maybe 1 year or 2 years. I think more one. But yeah, I think we drop this. I think we go to 9-2. Still gonna be a solid year, but it's gonna sting when it happens, but we're gonna be able to lick our wins and be like, okay, like
I think it's every program's different, but when you look at Tennessee compared to where Georgia was, and I think in year 2 or 3 is when they took a big step under Kirby Smart, but when you look at Tennessee, it's a different circumstance with, what we went through compared to what they did. And I just don't know. Again, this game's 3 months away, so a lot can change between now and then. I just don't know that Tennessee's quite ready for that yet. But you never know. It's a late November game. There's a lot on the line, possibly. It's in Neyland Stadium, so Georgia's got to go on the road to a hostile environment. Maybe they slip up and Tennessee plays really well. But if you have to ask me on this show, I think Tennessee loses. You agree? So we both have Tennessee 9-2, correct?
Yep.
And that brings us to Vandy. So we're 10-2.
So we're 10.
I don't even think there's anything to talk about.
That
Vanderbilt stinks.
Yeah. So I set the win total at 9.5 for the season. And funny enough, I actually saw, I believe it was On3 on Twitter, actually set the same number. Maybe they were listening to the show and thought it was a good number. I don't know.
Either that or you're good at what you do, Harb.
I gamble a lot. I know I know what lines are. Doesn't mean I'm good at it, but I normally know what the numbers are.
Oh, by the way, what national ranking do you? I just saw this a minute ago and it just hit me. I didn't say anything. What national ranking do you think Athlon has Vandy at? I'm kind of surprised it's this high.
Wait, like high as in good?
Better than what you were probably about to say. I think you were about to say 101.
I was about to say 101.
Their preseason ranking is way better than that.
Better than 69?
It's 69. Nice.
Is it really?
Yes.
Awesome.
Their coach has openly admitted their goal this year is to go to a bowl game. That's admirable goals for Vanderbilt. They should not expect any more than that.
If it goes to a bowl game, it is a win of a season.
Yeah, I'm not even reading about them. I don't think it's in Neyland Stadium. They don't pose any threat to us unless something bad is happening where we have a lot of injuries or we're chaotic at quarterback, something like that. But I don't see anything like that happening. So we both have Tennessee at 10-2 with losses. I have losses to Georgia and Alabama. You have losses to Georgia and Missouri. Either way, that keeps us out of going to Atlanta again.
We'll probably be back around the Sugar Bowl or the Orange Bowl, just like last year.
Yeah. At worst, we're going to New Year's Day Bowl, probably like a Capital One Bowl or something like that. But more than likely, you're looking at a New Year's Six, probably with our schedule and wins that we would have at 10-2. More than likely looking at it at, like you said, I would say more than likely a Sugar Bowl or a Fiesta Bowl than I don't know. What's the playoff games this year? I didn't even look.
I don't know. I haven't looked.
Let me.
That's say the Rose Bowl's in rotation this year.
That is a good question. This year's semifinal games are the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. So looks like no more trips to Louisiana for me this year.
Series World.
New Year's Six, you got the Cotton Bowl, the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. That could be an option. Capital One Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl. The Chick-fil-A Bowl, the Peach Bowl and the Orange Bowl are on Saturday, December 30th. Cotton Bowl on Friday, December 29th. And the Fiesta Bowl is on January 1st, along with the Rose and the Sugar Bowl. Rose Bowl back on January 1st. Thank God.
We end up, so postseason prediction, I say we end up in the Peach Bowl against Florida State or the Cotton Bowl. Is that Big 12 or Group of 5 now?
It just says at large versus at large. At one point, it was supposed to be the Sugar Bowl is supposed to be SEC versus Big 12 if it's not in the playoffs. Yeah. I don't know if that's still going on or not. But it obviously can't this year because it's a semifinal game. Yeah, I'm gonna have Tennessee in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. They'll probably try to keep us close after sending us to Miami last year.
Yeah, I think we play Florida State. I don't think they make the playoff, but I think they're going to be good. Um, it's going to be between them and Clemson for the ACC. No, I think both of them are decent. I don't know which one's better. Um, Real quick though, while we have 4.5 minutes,
Yes.
I'd like to segue into hater and losers of the week.
Go ahead quickly.
My hater and loser of the week is Garrett Cole and the New York Yankees. And I love saying that. Red Sox might not make the playoffs, but guess who damn sure ain't? That's New York Yankees. So after Red Sox slid a little bit, weekend sweep of the New York Yankees, absolute decimation of Garrett Cole yesterday. So here's a little stat for you. You might enjoy this.
Okay.
Garrett Cole against the Red Sox since becoming a Yankee, including the postseason. 13 starts, 70 innings. He's given up 68 hits, 42 earned runs, 21 walks, 20 home runs for a 5.40 ERA, a 5.21 FIP, and 2.57 home runs per 9 innings pitched.
Not good.
Kermit the Frog is a loser, and he is the biggest hater in the week, along with Brian Cashman, who did nothing at the trade deadline.
Very quickly, good nominee. And by the way, I went for a home run last week, and I knew it was a softball. I won with Joe Biden because that's just too easy. So, I'm not going to hang a banner for that one. But my hater and loser of the week is the Baltimore Orioles, and this actually goes back a couple weeks ago when they suspended their TV play-by-play guy because he pointed out that they have played terrible at Tropicana Field for the last decade plus. Why you would suspend somebody for saying that, I don't know. It's like state-run media to me, but if you haven't, because we're running short on time here, look that up, and I'll post that. I also wanted to point out this story I ran across this afternoon. Have you heard this? Have you seen this? Morgan Wallen says his number one goal right now is to sell out Neyland Stadium.
That'd be cool.
I guess for a concert, not a football game. But
whether you like it, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say he says it's obviously really cool, but I'm always trying to make new goals as far as touring goes. My number one goal right now is selling out Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, but doesn't say when or anything like that. I've always wondered why Kenny Chesney hasn't come back here, but I think Morgan Wallen's next in line for a big stadium show here in Knoxville.
Whether you like his music or not, it'd be cool for a local boy to sell out Neyland Stadium, piss on Garth Brooks, and piss on Kenny Chesney for that matter. Just personal opinion. But yeah, it would be cool to see him do that, whether you like his music or not. Yeah,
I would definitely be there.
Yeah, I think I would too.
In attendance.
See it, you know.
Very, very quickly before we go, we still have a lot of stickers left that we'll be handing out this year. We also have koozies on the way. We'll have more on those here. Hopefully they'll be here in the next couple of weeks. They'll definitely be here before the season starts. But we're elbows deep into planning tailgates, Harbin. Big Montana and I are. So hopefully put on a good show for everybody September 9th. But I appreciate everybody listening really quickly.
Real quick, gotta give a big shout out to fan and loyal listener of the show, Jake Minot.
Yes.
Went up to a professional golf tournament in Virginia this past week and made his first professional cut. Got a decent little payday for his play. So shout out, Jake. We love you. May have some big things in the future.
Yes, we have some business ventures in the work with Jake. We'll just leave it at that. Well, guys, I appreciate you listening. The Vols are going 10-2, according to Harb and myself. We won't be on here next week because I'll probably be traveling, but we'll see you guys hopefully soon here on the Section YY8 podcast.